Nora Mulligan, and I am your worship associate this morning. Our guest pianist today is Laura Ravati. Please rise in body and or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 1010 in the Teal hymnal, Oh, We Give Thanks.
Good morning, I'm Ganelle. I'm a board member, and we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. And we respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homeland of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. For most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service upstairs in Fellowship Hall if you are present in the sanctuary. And if you are watching the live stream, there will be a link for a Zoom coffee hour found in the Saturday reminder email. If you're just joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email uucroton@gmail.com with your name, and we will make sure you're added to the e-news list. And if you're present in the sanctuary, please silence your cell phones at this time. Once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
This morning, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Lily Carayannis. Lily holds a Master of Divinity from Union Theological Seminary and a Master's of Philosophy from SUNY Stony Brook. She is a member of the Board of Trustees for UU Faith Action New Jersey. She's the Deputy Chief of Special Operations at the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board, a city agency that investigates allegations of police misconduct. Lily's ministry stands at the intersection of ecological justice, trans rights, and racial justice. She believes that the crisis which faces America and the world can only be addressed by a steadfast dedication to the demands of justice, the power of love and action, and an investment in our spiritual lives. Please join me in welcoming Lily.
So our opening words today are from Ursula K. Le Guin's translation of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is a 2,500-year-old sacred text of Taoism. It's an ancient Chinese religion. And Ursula K. Le Guin, who was a renowned science fiction writer, described herself as an irreligious jackrabbit. She said that the Tao gave her a handle on life as an adolescent, and she published her own translation in 1997. The Tao often reminds us of the interconnection of all things, the ephemeral nature of the world, and to take joy in all that we do. Mindful of the little things. It's easy to keep hold of what hasn't stirred, easy to plan what hasn't occurred. It's easy to shatter delicate things, do things before they happen, get them straight before they get mixed up. The tree you can't reach your arm around grew from a tiny seedling. The 9-story tower rises from a heap of clay. The 10,000-mile journey begins beneath your feet. Do and do wrong. Hold on and lose. Not doing, the wise soul doesn't do it wrong. And not holding on doesn't lose it. That's why the wise want not to want. Care nothing for hard-won treasures. Learn not to be learned. Turn back to what people overlooked. They go along with the things as they are, but don't presume to act.
And now we would like to ask the young people in our congregation, led by Susie Dugow, to go and ring our bells 8 times for the 8 principles of our congregation and our UU world. Come on up, guys. Okay, might just be Maggie, and that's okay. She'll do a good job. Thank you, Maggie. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from Marta I. Valentine. We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carry us through our week. We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children. Now please join me in the unison affirmation. The words are printed in your order of service. Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. And now let us sing our children out with Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Let us now bear witness to the joys and sorrows experienced in our community. If you have a brief, yet personally significant joy or sorrow that you're willing to share, please come up to the microphone and speak loudly so that everyone, even the people watching at home, can hear you. If you would prefer to only have a candle lit without speaking, please just stand and I will light a candle for you. I want to start with one from, he has a joy of a new granddaughter whose name is Simone Ripley Master Berardino.
My name is Megan, and I know everybody has lost an hour of sleep today, but for those of you who wrestle with your own form of seasonal affective disorder, like I do, I am very happy to see the sun in the afternoon, feel like I can breathe again a little bit.
Hi, I'm Nanette. I was a little late this morning because a friend fell and broke her wrist. So we got her all settled with family members and at the hospital. So thoughts for her.
Hi, my name is, this is short. My name is Sherry, and I'm happy to report my sister's stem cell transplant was a success. She spent 3 weeks being monitored daily. She's back home from Duke University home and in good care. So anyway, thanks for your prayers.
I'm Ann Summers, and my joy is that my neighbor Stephanie has joined me today at services, and I want everyone to come up afterwards and say hello to her. And for God's sake, I brought food for 80, so please have some snacks after. And if you're not hungry right now, please take some with you.
So even if I didn't have something to share, I just wanted to say this microphone is the perfect height. That is my first joy. Thanks, Gil. But I do have a joy to share, and I just want to thank everybody who came to see the Laramie Project, which was performed here last month, and it was a successful run, and you guys could not have been more supportive, and our theater group could not be more appreciative. So thank you so much.
I'm lighting another candle for all those joys and sorrows which we keep in the secrecy of our hearts, and one for all the people who have yet to find a spiritual home to share their joys and sorrows.
Every Sunday, we take time to sit in the quiet with each other. We take time to breathe. We take time to hear the calm rhythm of our hearts. And in this quiet, we open ourselves to new truths, to recommit ourselves to the important work of justice, and to reflect on all of those who have loved us into being. I invite you into that quiet now. Breathe. The trees around us every day breathe, releasing their oxygen into the world. So too do the birds who alight on their branches, searching for food and love and shelter. Breathe and think of the bees. The bees too breathe. All of our oxygen is part of an interconnected web of life. It has cycled through beetles' lungs, cows' lungs. It has been filtered through the trees and the seaweed and the plankton. So just breathe and take a moment to feel that profound interconnection with all of life on this planet. It's oxygen and it's water that sustains us all. Breathe, and in that breathing, let us feel. Feel any feelings that we have in us, and just let those feelings flow out of you, and then let them return. Each breath is a continuation, an open palm, a process that keeps going. May each breath bring us closer together. invite you now to sing our song of meditation, Spirit of Life, 123. Our reading today comes from the UU minister, Forrest Gilmore. Reverend Forrest Gilmore is the executive director of the Shalom Center, a resource center in Bloomington, Indiana, for people experiencing extreme poverty. He is a Unitarian Universalist minister and a graduate of Cornell University and Starr King University. He says, "Our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, is a glorious statement. Yet we make a profound mistake when we limit it to merely an environmental idea. It is so much more. It is our response to the great dangers of both individualism and oppression. It is our solution to the seeming conflict between the individual and the group. Our seventh principle may be our Unitarian Universalist way of coming to fully embrace something greater than ourselves. The interdependent web, expressed as the spirit of life, the ground of all being, the oneness of all existing, the community-forming power, the process of life, the creative force, even sometimes God, can help us develop that social understanding of ourselves that we and our culture so desperately need. It is a source of meaning to which we can dedicate our lives." I think we have a hymn next, yes? Yes. I invite you to join us in hymn 1069, Ancient Mother. And I think this is new to this congregation, so we're going to play it through once and see if we can't learn it.
Rise in body and or spirit. Easier to sing when you're standing.
freshman year of college, I had to take a course in biology. I had no interest in biology, science, or math. Well, I had a passing interest. I like learning the conclusions, dreaming of the stars, or the quantum atoms, and stuff like that. But I wasn't interested in doing science. I wanted to solve the questions of the meaning of it all, not the how of it all. So I took this biology course as this pass-fail with the intention of missing as many homework assignments as possible and still passing. The first class, the professor started with the cell structures, and I was immediately thrown back to 5th grade with the cell with a little circle and then all these other little blobs in there, and this nucleus, and all of that stuff. And in 5th grade, we had to painstakingly draw or sculpt each one of these little differently shaped blobs, and then label them with these tiny little flags. And my handwriting was so big and so bad that I could never. So that's amazing enough, So that's amazing enough, this thing that's inside of us is in everything, but there's more. See, every mitochondria has 2 cell membranes, and that's strange, as most organelles only have 1 cell membrane. If there are any true crime junkies here, you'll also know that mitochondria have their own DNA that is inherited solely from our mothers, which to me means that there's hidden within us a matrilineal history. But red blood cells do not have mitochondria, and that's why sometimes DNA tests don't match up. So the professor explained that one theory to describe this mitochondrial weirdness is that mitochondria, at some primitive age, was this independent being, was a bacteria. And now when anything enters the cell, it pushes through the cell membrane and gets wrapped up with it so that it protects the cell from this entity coming in and protects the thing that's coming in. So if a bacteria has its own cell membrane, comes into the cell, it would end up having 2 cell membranes, just like mitochondria. Additionally, that bacteria would have its own DNA, just like mitochondria. And it is believed that complex multicellular life cannot function without it. Now this blew my mind, and it still does to this very day. The only reason that any of us are around is because this independent being entered the body of another independent being, merged with that being so much so that not one of the living beings ever in history or prehistory would have been alive, or at least not in this form. So if this theory of mitochondria is true, then mitochondria are hands down the most successful being in Earth's evolutionary history. Now, being that I was the child of poetry and philosophy, I continued to struggle through biology, but I realized that the fundamental truths about nature and of the universe could often be located in the results of scientific inquiry. As UUs, we all believe this to one degree or another. In modern society, it's hard not to analogize the discoveries of science to the human condition, and we know that we should do this carefully. Science has been used analogously as well as directly to perpetuate some of the most horrific behaviors of humans and in human history. Evolution was often used to justify slavery, and genomic science was used to justify eugenics. Science has played a prominent role in warfare and genocide, oppression, and destruction, whether through directly producing the means of harm or by producing the analogical justification for harm. Science is not a neutral body of facts that require no ethical or political considerations. That said, it would be impossible to live in the modern world and not have science shape the way we consider the world and its meaning. So while the theory of evolution was used to justify racism and misogynistic programs and policies, it also helped shape our relationship with the natural world. And it also introduced us to this dogmatic belief of the survival of the fittest, and this belief that was the scientific ground to progress, such that we were encouraged to dominate nature and by extension each other. So if, the idea is if everything is out there fighting for its offspring at the expense of others' offspring, then maybe brutal capitalist exploitation is only natural. Maybe we should make sure that we are in control of the forest before the forest comes and survives over us. But Evolution also enlightened us to the way that we are deeply linked with the other creatures on this planet, coming from a common ancestor. And because survival of the fittest was the most compelling concept at the time, money for research went into self-affirming studies of that idea, often leaving other theories of evolution underfunded, ignored, or mocked. The studies of symbiosis, ecology, and the interconnection of life has only really recently begun to emerge in mainstream consciousness as a scientifically founded principle that can inform how we live. So thinking of mitochondria gives me a sense of scientific grounding to our seventh principle, beyond just evolution. Sometimes I worry that we just kind of stopped incorporating scientific knowledge into our cosmological understanding after evolution. So the seventh principle, and for all of those of us who may have forgotten, is as follows. It is the respect for the interdependent web of all of existence, which we are a part. Now note, it says existence, not life, not environment, not world, but everything that exists is an interdependent web that demands of us respect. And it's a powerful principle. We often talk about the interdependent web relating to the environment, but this is primarily because the science and knowledge that we are most often exposed to nowadays is science about ecology and environmentalism. But this principle is about more than just ecology and the environment. It means that even those things which are not at all connected explicitly to the environment are interconnected with us too. The stars, the nuclear particles, the dark matter, the electrons, the neutrinos, all of these belong to the interdependent web of existence, of which we are all a part. So the mitochondria in all of us, in all of the plants, in all of the trees and the sheep and the dogs, is first and foremost a story of deep interconnection. I am not me if I do not have mitochondria. Mitochondria has no existence outside of the cell. We have all merged so thoroughly such that it is impossible to differentiate one from the other. And true, I possess a multitude of mitochondria, and true, I contain a number of different elements that also work toward my metabolizing and continued animated existence. But we could equally say that I am but one of many creatures in this space and time. I interact with these other things, and I am integral to a certain community such that without me, that community would at the very least be very different in the same way that we rely on all of those things around us for life. So our seventh principle, I believe, tells us that that all things are their relationship to other things. We are all our relationship with other things. So much of this is hard to talk about because for many centuries we've been given to understand ourselves as unique, singular individuals, fully possessed with an individual will, interacting with singular and disconnected objects. But what happens if we begin to acknowledge that the I who interacts with the world is actually just its relationship to everything else? Not an independent being, but a being made up of relational parts that relates to everything else. So let's think of an example. Our bodies are filled with bacteria and fungus. There are as many human cells in our body as there are non-human cells. The bacteria in our gut is a major source of unconscious regulating behavior. Our gut bacteria influences our stress management, our cognitive functioning, and our social interactions. Knowing this makes the belief in a singular individual making decisions independent from all others a lot more complicated. If the bacteria in my gut interact with my cognition unconsciously, is it me or is it my bacteria making the decisions? Now sure, we could say, but it's my microbiome. But even the my in that statement is questionable. Who is the me that is the my? Our gut bacteria produces serotonin, which regulates our mood. That's right, even our feelings are generated and in some sense felt through the microbiome inside us. Forget the so-called questions as to whether other animals feel pain. We don't feel solely through our own selves, but through a collection of flora and fauna that live inside of us. And here's the crazy thing. Many animals like cows and dogs also have much the same bacteria living in their guts as are in ours. So, we are all mitochondrial having beings. We share bacteria, and that bacteria helps us literally to feel and think and plan for the future. In many ways, we are all connected through our guts and through our cells. And that's the profound thing about the seventh principle. Almost prophetically, the seventh principle projected, or at least made space for a world that is shot through with relationality. There is no me without relation to mitochondria, our gut bacteria, to each other, even at the microfloral exchange, and ultimately, the wider world. So all of this radically changes the cosmologies and theologies of the past. No longer can we view humans as the top of creation, closest to God in a hierarchy of being. Neither can we position humans as the top of evolutionary development or even the top of the food chain. No longer can we say that we are the only feeling beings or even really the only rational beings. Only recently, with the global climate crisis, have we begun to speak as though we are interconnected with the world in a mass culture sort of way. We know our actions here can have impacts on the population of the ants in the Congo, which in turn can harm bird populations and have a cascade of effects. But that feels like a distant sense of relationality, a sort of mystical causal chain. However, knowing that all of us share serotonin-producing bacteria, or that every living thing we see carries within it an ancient bacteria as part of its cells now, well, wow. If we take seriously the interrelated web of existence and the scientific data that shows that we are so thoroughly shot through with intersectionality, such that we can be described as an intersection of many beings who are themselves an intersection of many beings, and so on and so on, we cannot continue to hold a theology or cosmology that is premised upon a schemata of the universe that sees humans as the top and most important individuals who, at best, owe an ethical or practical consideration to the rest of the organic and inorganic world. Science has moved on. The earth desperately needs us to move on. But old habits die hard. Feelings and interrelationality binds us each to each such that that great cowboy individualism of the American imagination reveals itself for what it is, a desperate fantasy, the last gasp of a cosmology that saw humans as the center of creation with a will to dominate the earth. Just as Copernicus upended the view of the universe that places the earth at the center, so too does the symbiotic life in the ancient bacterial mitochondria upend any sense that we are disconnected individuals with limited connection to the earth around us. Perhaps all of ecological history has been the story of the success of mitochondria. With humans, its unwitting servant. Our seventh principle is not a creed or dogma, but it is a principle that requires that we re-examine any belief that would ossify our existence into non-relational, independent existence. And the science both metaphorically and actually backs us up. So implicit in everything we do is our belief to the fundamental structures of reality. Our principles and our science call us to observe and adjust these cosmologies to live in a world that is deeply interrelational. And this means that when we think of the climate crisis, we do not fall into the trap of believing that the cure is ever deepening our well of supremacy and domination over nature, any more than we think that the cure of heart disease is prayer. It means that when we think of ourselves as connected to the trees and the birds, the water and the stars, and that we weigh our choices as choices in a web. It means that we look at the non-human other, and we do not try to fool ourselves that the non-human other does not feel or does not plan for the future, because it is the non-human other within us that makes feeling and planning possible. Now, I think of our water communion, a ritual which I am very, very fond of and which I think expresses some of the best of UU life. You see, we gather waters from all of our meaningful places. It may be the tap in your kitchen, it may be the cool Pacific waters, it may be the swimming pool where your youngest learned how to swim this last summer. And we gather these throughout the year as discrete little parts of ourselves, a little prayer to matter that makes life on earth possible. And we bring this all together and we pour them all together. All of the water comes together both as individual and as one at once. It is a communion from below, from the primordial waters, to remind us of our shared life. Let us try to take time in each day to experience that connection with each other, to see our cats and our dogs as sharing our life, and the squirrels and the spiders too. All that lives is part of us, and we it. What could be more holy than that? Thank you. I invite you to... Sorry? Yep. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing hymn 1011, Return Again. I think this is also new to us, so we're going to play it through once and see if we can learn it again. Thank you.
We could absolutely do that next time. We could absolutely do that next time, yes.
Next time.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in a spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will also be shared with Emergency Shelter Partnership, excuse me, an interfaith partnership in North Westchester County. For more information, visit the website esp-ny.org. You can make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. You may also scan the QR code in your order of service. From your homes, you can make a donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter. Please remember to give a little extra to compensate for the 3% surcharge. Or, if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. The words, excuse me, are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all that we stand for as a community of faith. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we rise together again.
Our closing words come from the Unitarian Universalist minister Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere, its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual, works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. Thank you all.